And I felt that I'm doing something very useful. I'm giving myself to Israel, you know, from the land, and that was a very rewarding feeling. I'm at home and I feel this feeling belonging, and you know, and it was very good for me, and it was a very, I think, the best time of my life, of that period, I would say.
What years were you in?
That was in 1953 till 1955. I was there. I was 19 when I came out of the army.
And then what?
Then was another difficult period, because up until then I was looked after, and from now on I had to fend for myself again, find a job, and I had to face up to a lot of difficulties, but less than before, because I already spoke Hebrew, and I was more or less integrated into life, into the Israeli way of life. And as I said to you, that I was very good in physical education. I took a course, and I started teaching in schools, physical education. I lived in Jerusalem. My parents lived in Tel Aviv. First I went to them, but it didn't prove to be very good. I prefer to go to Jerusalem to my grandparents, because most of my friends also came from Jerusalem. They were all in Jerusalem, so I felt that maybe my place is there. And this is where I lived.
So that's where you were teaching?
That's where I was teaching as well.
Judit Abelesz, and this is tape number 3. We're in London. You were telling me about being in Jerusalem and living with your grandparents and being teaching PE. Tell me sort of what happened from there on.
Yeah. What actually happened that my grandfather died earlier, and then just my grandmother stayed there, and then also she moved away. She moved to her son, and I stayed on my own, and I rented a room. I lived with an old lady for quite some time, and I was quite happy with my life, actually. Didn't earn too much money, but it was just about enough to look after myself. And of course I wanted to get married. And like every young girl, I suppose, and eventually I happened to meet my husband, who's my husband today, and came here.
How did he come to be in Israel?
In 1958, he came to Israel. He came to visit his brother. He came to England in 1948. Or 1949. He left Hungary in 1948. He came to England in 1949, 10 years before me. And he had a brother whose family, he and his brother, his brother's family, wanted to run away from Hungary. And they were caught in the border. And they were taken back to Hungary, and he was imprisoned. And in 1956, during the revolution, he managed to get out. So he went to meet them in Vienna. And from then on, and his sister also at the same time came to Vienna, and his brother emigrated to Israel. So he met them there and then, and he was with them. And I think it was 1957, end of 1957, he came to visit them to Israel, and he stayed there for a while. And this is the time when we met.
Did you know his brother?
No, I didn't know his brother then. No, but somebody introduced us. This is how we met. It was in a wedding.
And you married? Where did you marry?
We got married here almost a year later.
How did you feel about leaving Israel?
This is a very interesting question, because when I went to Israel and lived in Israel, I always said that I don't want to leave Israel ever. This is my place. This is my home. This is where I belong. This is where I can exercise my religion. I can do what I want. And I felt very strongly about this. And whenever someone suggested for me someone from abroad, if I want to meet, I didn't want to know. But eventually, things have changed. I could see that I can make no progress in my life. And I decided that maybe I will meet someone from abroad. It might be quite a challenge or whatever. And this what made me to meet my husband. So we met and we went out for a while. And 6 weeks later we got engaged. But we only got married. He came back afterwards. And then I came here the following summer, and we got married. That was 36 years ago. This summer, believe it or not. I don't know where the time went though.
And once you had left Israel and were here, how has England, how's that been for you?
Well, to tell you the truth, I did feel guilty about it to an extent. And at the time when I left, I always said that I want to go back. And but you know how it is. Then you start your life and you just settle down, and you have your children, and you have your everyday worries, your Monday worries, and I just couldn't see my husband being able to make a living in Israel because he was not trained for anything specific, and also to be business, everything is a matter of luck. But I suppose in Israel it's more difficult than anywhere else in the world because the Jews are very shrewd and clever people, and with them too. As I didn't think that I wanted to expose my husband into this sort of situation, and we had a reasonably good life here. And I must say that I hardly ever felt anti-Semitism. I must say I'm really very grateful for that, if this is the right expression. And we've been quite happy. But having said that, of course, we have a very strong affinity to Israel, and we go very often. And we also have a flat, and which we always felt that we wanted to have just in case anything happens, because you never feel sort of 100% secure, you know. You never know what can happen next. And this were my feelings then, and so yes, I feel very strongly for Israel, and I love Israel, whatever it happens, and I take it very much to heart with all the atrocities that's going on and all the pain, and it's very much part of my life.
Did your parents stay in Israel when your
No,
brothers?
my parents also found it very difficult. My father with his husband note, it was very hard for him to make a proper living. So when my first child was born in 1961, they came over here, and he got himself a job here as a chazan, and they stayed here and died here, but they buried on the Mount Olives. We took them back.
And your brothers also came?
My brothers also came here, yes. I mean, my younger brother was a young boy when he came with my parents. My older brother, he was in the army, and at that time when my parents came here, in the Israeli army, and afterwards he came here and he also settled down here.
So you came in 59,
1959.
59 when you got married, and you've had 4 children.
Yes, thank God.
And,
Yeah.
do you want to say a little bit about about being a mother to them and what that was at that time, and what your life in England has been like?
Well, I think that I mustn't complain. I had a good life in England. I hardly worked. I worked in the beginning. I was teaching PT in one of the Jewish schools here in Hendon for the first year. And then after that, I was not working. I had my first child, so I stayed at home. And my husband, he had a business and he looked after us. And it's only just recently, the last 5 years, that I've been working and I have a business of my own. But I think that I'm very grateful that I never had to worry about where the next penny is coming from, and we had a reasonable good life. The children had a good education, and we tried to give them a very normal upbringing, what you may call normal, warm and loving. We always used to have guests in our house and tried to maintain a good atmosphere.
What do you think are some of the values that you have brought to your family life as a result of the experiences that you've been through, you and your husband?
Well, above all, we have to know that we are Jews. And we have to remember that always. And also that we are religious Jews. And this is the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, for my children to remember their identity. And this is how we brought them up, to know that there is one God and to be faithful and loyal Jew and loyal to God, loyal to Jew and loyal to Israel. This is the most important values that I try to ingrain into my children, and I hope that I succeeded in that.
And do you think that that value is stronger in you because of what you've been through, or that it was maybe part of you anyhow?
Well, it is, I think it's a bit both, because just a little incident I want to tell you. When I was a little girl and we were in Hungary, that was during the war, I remember having a little bit of a tiny olive tree with a Western Wall ingrained in it and said Jerusalem. And this is something that I always took with me. This is something that I carried, this is something that I cherished. So I think that Eretz Israel was always part of my life, and belief and religion also. And it proved to me time and time again. But of course, whatever we went through, it strengthened that belief, it strengthened that identity, and strengthened the fact that I will never ever let myself to be humiliated again just because I'm a Jew. So this is a very, very strong element in me. If I feel that someone is trying to use or say that won't let me to progress for some reason because I am a Jew, or won't, I will stand up for it. I will say it. So these are the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Even if I live far away, but this is how I feel. Yeah, what did you want to add?
Were there any other things that you would like your grandchildren to know?
Well, this is what I pray for, and I say it every day, that my children should carry on the same tradition and the same belief. My children and grandchildren, there is every day I say it and I beg for it, that we should always remember where we come from, our roots, our sources. We have nothing to be ashamed of. On the contrary, I think we can be proud of ourselves.
You have four children, and they have, it seems, pursued their Jewish faith. It is important to all four of them, it seems.
It is, yes.
And their children too.
Well, yes, I hope so. I mean, yes, they give them the education. I mean, what can you do? You just bring them up, and the rest is up to God, whatever happens. Everything is in the hands of God. But they all pursue their Jewish identity. In fact, now I was in America and I saw how my daughter is bringing up her children. I mean, I see her very often, but with all the values, and my son-in-law. My son-in-law is a doctor, how he is a heart specialist, but yet he's a very religious man, and how he's teaching his son, and how the girls, they all go to very religious schools, and my daughter is praying every morning, and this is the kind of way that I want them to be.
So you must be very proud of them.
I'm not proud. I don't want to. I'm just very grateful. I don't want to call myself proud because there's nothing to be proud of. I'm just very grateful that it turned out that way, because there's so many terrible things you can hear and you know, and I'm just grateful that God has guided me, that I ask Him to guide me. That I should be able to do what I'm doing, and my children should follow that.
Before we finish, is there anything else that you feel that we've missed out on? Any incidents that happened, or any sort of anything else that you feel that you want to say about your experience?
I don't know. Maybe there were a lot of things that I didn't tell you, but I can't just now think of them at the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if you could just tell us who they are.
Yeah, this is my father in 1939 when he went to the Hungarian army, and this is my mother when she was a young woman.
Okay.
This picture was taken in 1937, and this is my late grandmother, my late mother, and myself. Just about a year old, a bit over a year old.
Okay.
This is my mother and myself. I don't know when was this taken.
Okay.
This picture is of my brother and myself. It must have been in 1948, I think, roughly at that time.